Alright guys, well today's tip of the week is going to be on jerkbaits. A lot of us have to throw them in the fall time because we have colder water, and these are perfect baits for clear water. I use the RC sticks. I really like them. This one's Pro Blue. I have probably about 100 of them, and I use them not only because I know that they catch fish. It was my first experiment with jerk baits. You know, I tried several different ones. I tried the Lucky Craft and the pointers, and then I've tried a mega bass. And I'll tell you what, when you hang up a mega bass in about 8 to 10 foot of water in a brush pile and you can't get it out with your lure retriever, it's pretty sad because there goes $25. But one of these, $8-9, and if you find them on sale or whatnot, you might be able to pick them up for $7. You know, it's worth every penny. But today I'm going to be telling you how to prep these. I'm not going to really be going into all the different brands and whatnot. I mean, there's plenty of them out there. But prepping them for this time of year is important. Like, because you're out there fishing, and this time of year the water temperature right now is 40 degrees. So you want to be trying to make sure that that lure sits perfectly still in the water. So you're reeling it along, getting it down to depth, it's going down, and then you stop it. And you're going to want it to stay still. Now, this time of year, the shad, I've been seeing a lot of shad dying. Some floating to the surface, and I've seen some stuck down to the bottom of the banks in that little bit shallower water. So what's going on is, it's kind of what happens every year when the water gets cold. It's a shad kill. So you have two different types of shad. You have the shad that are dying and flickering to the surface, and they'll go flick flick, and they'll just sit there at the surface, and then they'll kind of slowly sink. And then you have the kind that'll die and they'll start sinking, and then they'll go like this. So what I try to mimic at this time of the year, at the coldest point of the year, is the shad dying. So you want to jerk, and then you're just let it slowly sink. It doesn't have to be a fall rate that's really fast. It just needs to be a steady, slow rate. I mean, it could be a half inch a second, just enough to kind of put a little bit of movement, because those fish are going to key on it. They're going to come up and they're going to look at that, and they're going to wait to either, when you jerk it again and you move it about 6 inches, and then they might strike it, or like more times than not, they're going to hit it while it's sitting there. They're going to take their time swimming up behind it, and they're just going to be really slow, and when you stop it, they're going to be like, that's your ambush time, and they'll just ambush it. So what I have here are suspend strips. They make them in dots also. I like the strips because I can cut them to however long I want, and you get a little bit more weight on them. So sometimes when you need to put a little bit weight right on the belly, each strip is approximately a little over 1/4 inch, maybe right at it, and that's about the width of this belly. And if you need to put one right up under the chin here, you can do that. You need to put one on the back side, you can do that. It works perfectly. Now what we're going to do is, I filled up a sink in there, and you need about 6 inches of water. You don't need a lot of water, but about 6 inches is a good depth to tune these. First thing you need to make sure is, make sure your water is cold. You're going to be fishing these in colder water. So you want to turn your sink on cold and let it run till the water gets cold, plug it up, fill it up. Or if you got a bucket or whatnot, or if you're near a lake and it's cold outside, go out, scoop up that 5-gallon bucket of lake water, and you'll be pretty close to what the actual temperature is, because the temperature of the water affects how these floaters sink, because the density changes. Because as the water gets colder or warmer, it definitely changes it. And it's kind of a cool science thing. But I've seen people where they'll take a bucket or a sink and put ice in it until that ice melts, and then they'll go to them and get that water really cold. But we're sitting around 40 degrees. The water temperatures, usually when I go out fishing, the water temperature starts right at 50 degrees. That's when I primarily get fishing for the season. So I try to get as close to 50 degrees. Right now on my sink's like 54 degrees. So we're going to get over there, and I'm going to set up the camera and show you guys the differences in setting some suspend weights. I got several different jerk baits over there. Some of them need to be tuned. So we're going to go ahead and go through that and get these tuned up for you. Alright guys, I got my sink all set up. I'm going to put the camera in the water and show you what's going on. I'm going to show you how currently it's not tuned at all. There's no weights on it. And you're going to see it float right up. And that's something you don't want when the water's really cold. When the water's warming, that's fine. Or in the fall when it's cooling, the shad are moving all the way up to the surface and the backs, it's fine because that's what they're doing. They're moving up to the surface. But when it's really cold, dead of winter, getting ready to go into spring, the shad are dying because the water's cooled off. You want the shad to kind of suspend or sink, and I'll show you. Alright, so I just pulled the camera out of the water. You saw how it floated to the surface. So I'm going to show you guys how to tune it. As you can see, it's floating nose heavy, and that's not good. So what you want to do is you want to pull it out. You want to dry it off with a paper towel or whatever you have. Then you're going to take one of these strips. You're going to peel one of these strips off, and you're going to stick it as straight as possible right on the underside of the chin. And you want to try and line it up so that it goes on straight. The straighter the better because it balances the bait. If you keep it balanced straight, it'll swim straight. Now that that's done, transfer the beads to the front and set it in the water. To it on the rear side of it. So that's an easy fix. You just clean off the rear, dry it off, and then you take one of these suspend dots, and you don't need much anymore. So you're going to take it, you're going to cut it in half. You're going to take the half that you cut and you're going to stick it right on the back side, just in front of that rear hook. And that should balance it out to where it floats properly, or possibly sinks just a hair. There it goes. Alright guys, and that's how you tune your jerkbait. They're all pretty much the same. If you buy the same brand, they're pretty much made all the exact same. So you can put the same suspend dots on them over and over and over. You don't have to test every single one every single time. It's pretty darn close. It gets you within a ballpark. And really, your goal is to make sure it just suspends. You know, you don't have to have it sink. I do that because I like to mimic a dying shad. And when you twitch it a little bit, it still darts up a little like a dying shad does. So with it sinking a little bit, it allows me to get to an extra foot or two if I just let it slowly settle. It's great because most of those only dive 4 to 6 foot without going into a big build jerkbait. And at that point, then it's totally different. With that being said, make sure that you always carry your suspend dots with you, especially if you're a tournament angler. Nothing's worse than losing the weight off the tail end of one of your jerkbaits and you're out on the water. You don't have any to replace it with. By doing that, it's simple. You just throw it on there on the fly. Or if you lose one and you didn't finish, making them all ready, you can do it while you're out there on the boat. It's not that hard. It's just sticky tape. It sticks right on there. So making sure that you tune your jerkbaits properly so they swim straight and definitely weighted properly so they kind of suspend will make a big difference on your catches throughout the year in the fall time and dead of winter and into the early spring. Like I said, as soon as the water warms up, you can start moving the jerkbait faster and it can float up a little bit without any issues. But dead of winter, you want it to suspend. You want it to stay steady because those fish, they're very sluggish and they're not interested in chasing something very fast. So, all right, guys. Well, that's the tip of the week. You guys have a good day.